Okay, guys, I finished this book. As you can see, my bookmarker is no longer in it because I finished it. And so I have more thoughts. So when we left off, it was they decided they were going to leave Poe. And so in the next chapter, my heart broke because they got ready to leave him. And so Katza, she got him a bunch of fish and she used a fish net and they found this cave he could hide in and they brought him a ton of firewood and she left him food and made him a bow and an arrow and all this other stuff so that he would essentially be able to survive this cold and terrible winter. And then they left and my heart, it broke so much because she did not want to leave him. She so didn't want to leave him and I felt so awful. It was just like, oh God, why does this have to happen? This is so terrible. But she left and I held back the tears. And so they embarked on their little journey and boy was it a rough one, man. It was something. So Katza decides she's going to take this path that nobody's ever survived, including the mountain, what's the word I'm looking for? The guy who was like a mountain climber or something, the guy who the path was named after, even he didn't make it through. So she's like, we're going to do it and I'm going to keep you alive. And I'm over here like, oh my gosh, are you really? Even though I've read it before and I know 100% that she does, I'm just like, ugh. So Bitter Blue is like freezing and she's like, you're crazy, we're not gonna make it through here. And she's telling her like, I don't want to die. And Kat's like, you're not gonna die, I'm gonna keep you safe. So she makes her this hat out of like animal's fur and she's hunting and she's telling her we're gonna have to set the horse free when we get here, and they're moving and she's like, Lek will never find us here, which made sense. I guess you have to take the road less traveled by in order for Lek not to be able to find them since he was after them hard. So there was a scene with the mountain lion where I was like, oh God, she's gonna die. Like, I love how it started off with the mountain lion was a gift. My immediate thought was, how in the world can a mountain lion be a gift? Like, only Katza. Oh yeah, this mountain lion, this was a total gift. Like, no, he almost killed you. And he like gashed at her here, like everywhere, like dug his claws into her thighs. And I'm just like, and she admits that this mountain lion that was a gift could have killed her. And when she goes back to camp, Bitter Blue's like, what the heck? Oh my gosh. And Katz is like, it's nothing. And I love how she talks about it like it's annoying. She's like, oh, this is annoying. This is what it feels like to be injured. Oh, this is irritating. Like, I won't be able to do things the way I used to do them. Now I'm injured. Like, this sucks. And I'm like, aren't you in pain? Like, aren't you in serious pain? You're just talking about this like it's just an inconvenience for you. Which apparently it was. Getting attacked by a mountain lion was an inconvenience for Katza. And then we find out that she needs stitches and she's still like, so annoyed by it. Like, only Katza, she's so strong that she gets like torn apart by this mountain lion and she's just like, look, I'm bleeding. Like, that's so frustrating. Another thing I found really almost frustrating was her thought that maybe she should kill the horse. Like, I was so upset. I was like, no, don't kill it. Let it go. Set it free. And I was happy when she made the choice to actually do that. That was a good thing. I was like, yes, she's setting it free. But yeah, so she made Bitter Blue this coat out of like the mountain lion's fur, and she made herself a coat, and so they're on this journey. In my mind, I'm like, I would never survive this because it's freezing. It's dead of winter. You're in a mountain. We have mountains here in Germany. They're up near Garmisch, and we've been up the second tallest mountain in Germany, and it's cold. And I can't imagine the dead of winter because it was like maybe like summer when we went up there or like fall. It wasn't winter. Like, I can't imagine. They close it down in the winter because it just gets so awfully cold up there. Like, you can't allow people up there. It's that bad. So I can't imagine. Like, I would die. I would literally die. And Bitter Blue, you know, when she talks about her, she's like, yeah, her hands are chapped and bleeding, and she is breaking to like rub her hands and like keep her warm, make sure she doesn't get frostbite. And I'm like, how is this child surviving this journey? Like, I as an adult would die. I'm sure of it. I wouldn't make it. I would just die. So yeah, I can't even picture how this child is making it through this. But she makes it. Then they get to this last stretch of the journey, and I am binge reading at this point. I'm on the edge of my seat because they get to Gorilla's Pass, and it's a straight shot, no trees, no forest, no wilderness. Cassie takes off her coat, and, you know, she's like, Bitter Blue, stick your hands on my armpits, stay awake this whole time. Like, just stay awake the whole time, like, the entire time. And then Cassie just takes off running, and I'm like, is she gonna make it? And like the way it's described is like she starts to like get almost lucid, like she's freezing cold, she's running, trying to make her muscles work and get to where she needs to get, but she's almost getting frostbite. She's so cold, like she's shivering, she's shaking, she's like, she almost freezes to death in this pass, like, but she forces herself to make it, and she's running and running and running, and she's like, she's forcing her fingers to open, like everything. And I'm just like, oh, this is too much. So eventually she gets to the forest. And by this time she's collapsing. And I'm like, because this is Katza we're talking about. And rarely ever, if ever, does she ever have trouble with anything. So she's collapsing from exhaustion. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And Bitter Blue takes the coat that she has on her now, wraps it around Katza, and Katza's like, firewood, firewood, and she can barely get the words out, so you know she's like done. So Bitter Blue gets the firewood, and this is the first time she's ever had trouble starting a fire, and she's just like using her knife and trying. Finally, they get this fire going, and Bitter Blue's trying to help make sure she's okay, and she's like, no, you come warm yourself first. And so she does. And finally, the ordeal is over, and Katza and Bitter Blue get warm, and Katza falls asleep, I guess, holding Bitter Blue, and she, you know, she made it, and she's warm, and she's comfortable by this fire, and I'm like, thank God, this journey is over. Like, I am so happy that they made it. But they can't go to an inn, because they don't know who's been there, and they don't know who's heard Lex lies. So they can't go to this inn. So they'll have to go to somebody of the council, which is like scary enough as it is, because they just don't know who's heard from Lek and who hasn't. So they have to take a risk. Now, Katza does steal, you know, some eggs and a pumpkin, and they have a nice dinner, which is good, because I can imagine eating just any meat you can find, like rabbit meat or like mountain lion meat, or I don't know, any meat you can find for days and days and days on end, and the freezing cold has got to be difficult. So they sneak to this inn, right, and I don't have a problem with this scene, but I was kind of shocked. So they find out Lex Lies haven't reached this inn, so great, they can go to this inn, and the guy's willing to help them, and it's wonderful, but she has to tell them the story and tell them who she is, and, you know, this is not important, but Bitter Blue does get her little bread and cheese, which I was happy about. Thank God the child finally got to eat something. I know she was starving, even with all that meat. So she has to tell them who she is, and I'm just like, oh, why does she have to tell them? Like, I'm scared for her telling them, because I'm like, what if Lek finds them, even though I know how the story ends? I'm like, oh. So she tells them, and they, you know, agree. They believe her, they'll help her, all of that, which is wonderful. But she lies and tells them Poe's dead and doesn't tell them where they're going. I mean, I know she had to do that, but hearing that Poe was dead, even though I knew he wasn't, because like I said, I've read it before, it still was like heartbreaking. So yeah, they're so dirty that they have to get 2 baths each, which I can't imagine being that dirty, but at the same time, if you've been in the mountains, and you've been in the mountains for weeks on end, in the freezing cold and dead of winter, I can imagine you're not only dirty and disgusting and probably smell terrible, but you also were freezing, and so like every part of your body is like aching, and you need a warm bath, if not 2 or 3. So they get this warm bath, and then they give them boys' clothes, and they cut Bitter Blue's hair, and they cover Katz's one eye with an eye patch, and they get on their way to find a ship, and they have to do so in the dead of night, and the whole scene of them finding this Leonid ship takes forever, and it's like they find it, then they go talk to the captain, and none of that is really important to me, honestly. Like, I liked the little fight where Katza, like, knocked him down, but then it was like, oh shoot, now they know who she is, and she has to tell them, so of course she does, and she shows them this ring, and here is where I was like, I forgot that this ring meant so much. Like, I've read this for, like I've said 1,000 times, but I just didn't remember. This ring is the ring of Poe's kingship, or princeship. So, in giving it to her, he's giving everything he's ever owned to her. His castle, his servants, everything. And they don't believe that he would do that. And so, Katza, when she finds out about it, is, like, dumbfounded. She's just like, why would he do this? Why would he give this to me? Like, why would he? I don't understand. I don't get it. I can't believe this. And then her reaction to everything. When I see him, I'm going to kill him for doing this. And that makes them believe her, because she just goes off on this banter and forgets that she's, like, in the ship with these people that don't believe her. And she's just like, I cannot believe that he did this. And she's looking around at these people and she's like, can I give it back? Like, can I give it back to him? I don't want it. And they're like, yes, Lady Princess. And she's like, don't call me that. And the whole exchange was just like, it was crazy. But it was so Poe. I remember thinking, like, it was so like Poe to do something like this for her. And it was sweet in a way. He thought he was going to die, so at least she'd have a place to stay and be that was safe. So that was good. And I really like the atmosphere of the ship. So they journey in the ship to Leonid, which takes weeks. And the atmosphere of a ship full of men with one female captain and those two girls. It's just great. Like, they're so nice to them. And then she starts teaching Bitter Blue how to use her knife. And that was so cute. Like, she makes a statement that women should be taught how to defend themselves, which I 100% agree with. Even in real life, women should be taught how to defend themselves against men or against enemies. Whatever, against people that would try to take advantage of them. I think that that's important and that it should be taught. I love how they don't laugh at her for wanting to learn self-defense. If anything, they encourage it, and I think that that's wonderful, and that's how it should be, and I'm glad that they were so nice to her. Really, I am. And so, when they end this journey on the ship with before they end this journey on the ship, the captain agrees to circle around this uninhabited island just so that Lex Lies don't touch them. And I think that was so sweet. And I was surprised that she agreed to it, because it's like, as a captain, you know, why would you stay at sea if you didn't have to? But I'm just glad that she trusts Katza enough to do that. I thought that was really nice, and I love that the captain was a woman too. Strong women just seem to be a theme in this series and in this book, which I love, love, love. I love the idea of a strong woman. And so, yeah. Now, here comes the fun part. Like, it's a Poe's castle. Lek is there, and he's got all of the princes and the king and the queen. And he confuses Katza, and Bitter Blue's just like, no, don't trust him. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. And in some ways she resists, but the whole time I was just like, this is probably my face. I was like, so in the end, she kills him. Which, thank God. And she kills him because he mentions Poe and gets ready to tell Poe's truth. And she mentions the line that he should have stuck to his lies because it was the truth that killed him. Which is powerful, and I love that line, personally. Now, of course, when she kills him, everybody's like, she's killed him, and they want to hurt her. But Bitter Blue's like, no, he needed to die, and they all are like, but he was your father, she killed your father, and Bitter's like, no, she did the right thing. And then eventually their minds start to clear gradually, and everybody's just like, I don't understand what happened. And so they have to go through this whole long discussion of clearing up everybody's minds. And then, after just getting off a boat, just getting on land, they have to get back on a boat to go find Poe, which I was so happy about. I was like, yes. And Bitter Blue goes with them, which is interesting. I'm glad she went though. I really love her character too. She's just so kind and sweet and strong and just lovely. For a child, she's like wise beyond her years. So when they sail back to find Poe, the whole time I'm just like, let Poe be okay. Even though I know he is, I'm just like, oh, I wish they'd find him already. And she becomes friends with his brother Sky, which again, it's so cute and I love it so much. I think it's adorable. Her and Sky have this little friendship, and he's one of Poe's brothers, which just makes it all the more beautiful. When they find him, I'm so excited. I'm kind of mad at Katza for pushing the horses so hard, and like when he was like, the poor horse is limping, she's just like, no, he's not, he's fine. She wants to get to Poe so bad. She even gets in like a little dispute with the king, and she's like, they better be fast riders, if not, I'll leave them behind. And he's just like, you won't leave them behind. You'll take a guard, you'll ride with them. And she's like, oh, and her irritation kind of fizzles out, and she's like, you know, in her mind, I feel like she was like, I'll get to Poe eventually. I will get to him. And when they finally do get to him, their reuniting was just everything to me. Then he starts being mean, and I'm like, why are you being so mean to her? Like, this is the love of your life. Why are you this way? Then we discover that Poe is blind, and his grace is what's keeping him from it being discovered, I guess. And I knew that was gonna happen. It's kind of frustrating. It's like, oh, it's sad. And like she said, you know, you've lost beauty. And that's a sad thing to lose. I can't imagine being blind and like not being able to see. That's my daughter in the background. The people that I love, I just can't imagine that. But Poe has to deal with that. And he kind of wallows in self-pity for a while, a good little while. But he asks Katza to stay with him. She says she'll stay with him. And I thought that was so adorable. She said she'd stay with him until he told her to leave. And I was just like, my whole heart. And so she does. That leads us to the end of our story. She stays with him, and Bitterblue stays, and a guard stays for some time too, and Sky stays until it's just her and him. And he finally figures out that if he stops fighting his grace, it won't be so overwhelming. Like, obviously. But yeah, he finally figures that out, and so it makes it easier for him. And him and Katza go to Bitterblue's coronation, and she sees Robin and Ban and all again, and it's like this big happy reunion, and I'm so happy that she sees them. Gideon has mentioned that he's still upset, and I'm just like, whatever, he's irrelevant at this point, like nobody likes him, but he's still upset apparently, whatever. And yes, they get through this wonderful coronation of Bitterblue, and then they retreat back to their hideaway. I like to think of it as a romantic hideaway. I think it's so cute that they're just hiding out together. But that's just me. So they go back, and Katza has decided that she is going to teach young girls self-defense. And I think this is a perfect like career option for her. When she was teaching Bitterblue how to use a sword, and teaching Poe and Sky kind of different combat things, in my mind I was thinking this is perfect for her, she should do this. And in the end it was like, I'm gonna teach young girls. I was like I was so happy. I was like, yes, she's gonna teach young girls how to self-defense, and she's gonna start in Moncia, which is just perfect where Bitterblue is. And so that was exciting. And of course she's gonna meet Poe back in Leonid when she's done. And Poe, thank God, is gonna go back to his castle in Leonid regardless of the fact that he can't see, and she'll join him later. I think that that's adorable. And she decides to face Rhonda again, which is 100% necessary, because she decides that she's her own person and she's gonna see her friends regardless, and she's not gonna let him control her, because nobody can control her. Which it took her to the end of the book to really grasp this, but I'm glad that she does. And of course we don't find out what happens when she does finally go back to her old kingdom and, you know, speaks to Rhonda. But we can assume that nothing bad happens, because I believe she's mentioned in Bitterblue at some point. That was the end of our tale, and I have talked so much about it openly in discussion in this Reread with me, the first ever episode of it. And now let's get to the really fun part. my rating of this book and how it has changed, if it has changed at all. So, when I first read this book 4 years ago, according to Goodreads, I gave it 4 stars. I don't even think I wrote a review. I think I just gave it 4 stars and called it a day. I have a review up on Goodreads. It's obviously not as detailed as this video, and I linked this video in the review that I put up on Goodreads. However, I gave it the same amount of stars. I gave it 4 stars. Now, some of you might be wondering, why not 5? You seem so passionate about it. I really do love this book. Like, some people don't, and I was reading some of the bad reviews. I personally do. I personally love this book. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. I think it's fantastic. There are some minor things in here that are kind of bothersome to me, which is why it only got 4 stars. The pacing is kind of all over the place. Like, when they get to the mountains, finally, it's when the pacing kind of like picks up, and then it slows down a little, and then it picks up. In the beginning, the pacing isn't exactly slow, but it's not exactly fast either. Like, the whole first part is basically just her dealing with Rhonda and dealing with her feelings, and Poe being introduced but not really being the secondary character that he is until like the middle of the book. It's not a problem, it's just like I like my books fast paced, and this has some really good fast pacing, and like I said, it's a great book, great read, but the way I feel about it is just that some places the pacing is a little bit slower for my liking, and I was just trying to like get through it so I could get to the fast pacing part. Like I said, I love the characters. I feel like they're very well developed. They're all like great. I love the feminist part of it, where it's strong female characters are seen all throughout this book, and more specifically all throughout this series. I absolutely love that. I wish that Poe's name was explained. This is so minor, but it does bother me that like everybody calls him Poe, but in the beginning it's like his name's Greening, and when she goes onto Lena's ship, she's like Prince Greening, and they're like Prince Poe. Like, I don't understand what that name was for. Was it made up? Like, I don't get it. But neither here nor there. It's just something I noticed. Aside from that, Katza not wanting to marry is kind of confusing to me, other than like I get that she doesn't want to be, put back in a situation where she's not herself, which it seems like marriage is, at least in this book. It's just weird because Poe would never put her in that situation, and I feel like there should be some commitment there almost. Like, I don't know if dating is a thing in this book, but like I feel like there should be some stronger commitment than just we're in love and we have sex. Like, I feel like there should be more. I honestly do. So there was that, and maybe it's because I'm married and I've always wanted a husband. I've never not wanted to be married. Maybe if I didn't want to marry, I would understand this more. But yeah, I just don't get that. So that was something for me. The world building in this book, I really loved. I love the little map in the front. I think that that's great because you can easily see, okay, there's Nander, there's here, there's that, whatever. And that's really helpful, and I loved how it was built upon. They didn't go everywhere, but that doesn't really matter. At least we knew where everything was. So that was something I really, really liked. I liked the epilogue. I liked that an epilogue was included, because if it had ended before that epilogue took place, I would have been upset with the ending. But I am happy with it, and I love that at the end they end it with Poe saying that the cave is really beautiful, because remember, it was said that he lost beauty, but turns out he hasn't, which I think is a beautiful, wrong choice of words, which I think is a great discovery, that even though he's blind, the world is still beautiful through his grace. I love that, love this book. I can see why it's a New York Times bestseller. I might even read it again sometime in the future. But yes, Graceling, I give 4 stars. It's a great book. You should read it. I loved it. And that is it for this long, drawn out first ever episode of the Reread with Me series. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked it, leave a like or a comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and if you want to see any more in this series and what you did or didn't like about it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.